Thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Let's get into the discussion right now. Saba at 35. Where do we go from here? There have been proposals of an intergenerational national conclave. Is that the solution or not? We'd like to hear from you. Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. Let me start by introducing my guest from my farthest right. Ambrose Weda is here. He's an advocate of the High Court. Thank you for making time. Franklin Mukwanja is also here as Executive Director, CMD. That is the Center for Multi-Party Democracy. Thank you very much for making time. Eric Okezi is a former Vice Chairperson, Security Regulatory Authority. Thank you very much for making time. And Javas Bigambo, a political strategist. Thank you very much for making time. And I'll start with you, Weda. We've seen so many times that it's now becoming commonplace that anytime there are protests, there's loss of lives and deaths. Yes. Why does this keep happening? Is it that the police are too heavy-handed? Is it the protesters who are provoking the police? What's going on?
Thank you so much. Good evening, fellow Kenyans. I trust you are well. The Lord be with you. First of all, let's be clear. The loss of lives during protests is not a new phenomenon. I myself attended the first Saba in 1990. I went to Kamukunji earlier on in February. I had just come out of Nyati House. I was in Nyati House for almost 2 weeks. Immediately after Dr. Uko was buried, the Uko riots, I was in the university. So there are deaths. We are not saying it's normal. We are saying occasionally here and there somebody's hit, somebody's walked over, somebody's run over because of the chaos. What is different is that the ones we are seeing now are very extended. And even the way that the protests are now going, I think it is robbery. People go out shopping. They don't plan to protest to ensure that there's a cause. The original Saba was because those days we used to have what is called Preservation of Public Security Act. You could not assemble without authority, without a license. And that license, you could apply for it and you are told no. So an application was made at that time because we were a single party. KANU was in leadership ruling. KANU was Baba na Mama. And Moi was Baba Moi na rungu yake. It was not a joke. That is why after the Uko protests, I and some of us were picked from our hall, 5 residents at night, and straight to Nyati House. What we saw will be in memoirs when we grow older. So it was to open up. It was like we are going to Kamukunji in defiance without any license. And secondly, wanted Section 2A to be repealed. We were led by Rubia, Matiba, Raila Odinga, Getobu, Rengo, all these people, they stuck their necks because those days, this was a joke. Watch at this one where you are eating ice cream and you are calling you who must go. Those days you will be arrested and detained without trial. And then they squeeze those diamond things. They squeeze them very hard. You come out. Sikuku himself came out. You couldn't see. It was not Christmas party that we are seeing now. So the pressure was that you are saying there's no meeting in Kamukunji, we will go there. And we went. And the people who used to beat up people are not the ordinary regular police. They were GSU trained. They would hit you once and you are down. Okay, deaths were not very common. So what we are doing, what we are seeing now, which is threatening, is people go and burn vehicles, beat up policemen, break into supermarkets, break into banks. This is a new phenomenon, which has nothing to do with democracy or justice. This is criminality. And it requires new approaches. So that even if somebody is talking about dialogue, we talk about it, but destruction, burning. Remember, Honorable Raila Odinga has led a lot of protests over the years, but there's no single day he said, let's go burn Parliament, let us go and burn the Supreme Court, let us go and burn this, whatever. So the deaths, we have to look at them. The police of today are also a bit harder and a bit not so restrained. Those ones of those days, they would not come to kill you. They would hit you, you will be injured, but death was minimal.
Okay.
So we need to address it.
Frank, has this protest lost cause?
I think, first, just to quickly speak to what Wakil Ambrose is saying, is that there are two elements on the level of violence we're seeing. There's an element of organization on both ends of the demonstrators and the side of the security agencies. And in between is a political class that has interests. And you can see clearly when you see instances where criminal gangs working in cahoots and in a very camaraderie manner with the security agencies, you must begin questioning how are they, being together when other protesters are actually not allowed even to get closer. And you can actually confirm that at the very initial stages of these protests, at least what I would call the post-Raila organized protests, we could see that actually young people had an intention to remain peaceful, at least in the first 2 or 3 protests. The other aspect to the violence is that there is a lack of criminal accountability. We have not seen, at least from way back 2017, any of the either police officers or private Kenyans who have, destroyed property or participated in criminal activities during protests, taken, held accountable, and that is a very critical issue. Have we lost cause? I think not.
Yeah.
What is happening is that we are suffering from what I would call a monopolistic political culture, where the political elite, especially in the aftermath of June 2024, came together, and Raila Odinga, respectively, has contributed very much to the country's progress. But from 2018, we have seen a tendency of the handshake. Even before then, from Moi era, after 97 elections to 2007 to 2018, and he has perfected that. And he's moved away from, in my view, the multi-party democratic state and society that we bequeathed ourselves in the Constitution to promoting a monopolistic culture. He's actually the father and founder and promoter of this. And that has lessened what I see. There is a commonality on the incentives and disincentives and incentives of the political class to act or not to act. And that is why we cannot see the young people as if they are actually gaining momentum, because there isn't the political cover. And on the other side, comparing with what Wakili Wed again is saying, there was a very clear demand of what was expected. A new constitution, multipartyism, repeal Section 2A. We need to safeguard our democratic and civic space. Issues that and gains that the young people are enjoying. But there's not been a clarity in terms of the follow-up. Of course, there is the need to have an economic rescue for the young people. But how do we sustain the engaged empowering of young people? How do we demand the value-based leadership as we proceed? Because some of the many agendas are being lost in between, but all of it is clouded by the demand by the political elites to make sure that the exclusivity is maintained.
We'll come to the issues and how to deal with them in just a bit. But Eric, have this protest lost cause, or are police simply using the wrong tactic and meting brutality on Kenyans?
Trevor, thank you for having me. The last time I was here, I said that every life is important. We don't want to lose any life, not the life of a policeman, not the life of a civilian. That remains my position today. My worry is this trend of a rare infiltration by supposed protesters who turn into goons, who then clearly appear to be part of the police arrangement. I think if I was to be on the side of government, I would ask for a 360-degree paradigm shift. The protests of 1990 have no relevance today to what these young people are following up on. And with all respect to my own brother, the Reverend Canon Ambrose Otieno Weda, the young people of today are hardly 35. These ones who are clamoring for economic space mostly. If you start telling them what you did 35 years ago, very relevant to them. It makes no difference to them. I think that government needs to come out clear and say, we want to ensure there is law and order. Because the protection of property and life rests with government. It doesn't rest with goons. Some of the clips that you watched today are of people whipping up other Kenyans in the full view of police. And I want to tell you that I want to say here that the coincidence is too much to ignore. Now, I have just seen a senior member of the political leadership saying that at least now we know which community was hiding behind Gen Z. Very reckless statement, if you ask me. Because Kenya is cosmopolitan in all manner. I have property in Kiambu myself. There are very many people of all communities of diverse nature in Kiambu, in Kirinyaga, in Nyeri, even in Olkalau. I am not about to agree that the pattern of this violence is from a community. That, from a security perspective, that is a story no one can buy. Okay. And so I would look government in the eye and say, look, all is not lost. It can be managed, but let us ensure that the criminals are not brought around. Okay. You can clearly see that there are people who have come to infiltrate. And you know, this is coming quickly after a member of parliament in a public rally somewhere in Rift Valley said, let them try again, they will see us. I want to see a government that will not care whether you are a political leader who supports it or not. Yeah. When you become inflammatory, you face the law.
Okay. All right, Jevas, has this protest lost cause, in your view?
Trevor, I refuse the invitation to a flattering engagement of absurdity by accepting certain warped or inclined discourses regarding the ongoing state of politics in the country. Now, tonight, as we sit here, we are standing at the intersection of history, law, facts, and national preservation. All these things are important, but are at stake. And as we look at all these things, we must appreciate that even tonight, official records indicate that close to 11 people or thereabout have lost their lives. A number of police officers have been injured. A number of ordinary citizens have been injured. It's indicated close to 560 or thereabout have been apprehended with respect to matters, demonstrations today, either aiding, sponsoring, facilitating, etc. But you ask a very critical question whether these demonstrations have lost direction. And I think that these protests are taking a very wrong compass direction for a number of reasons. My brother here has indicated that police officers were standing a watch as citizens were beating up other citizens. I've watched such kind of clips. I've also watched clips where citizens have overpowered police officers and police officers are running away, yet they are armed, not turning against the people. I've also watched citizens getting to and attacking and looting supermarkets. Tonight, I think close to 25 supermarkets have been looted and shops across various parts, about close to 13 towns in the country. Tonight, a number of people are resting or going to sleep, some not going to sleep at all because of the cloud of anger, the cloud of sorrow because of having lost loved ones. Some families have police officers who are their relatives who are in hospital even as we are speaking tonight. And yes, so much has lost direction. But what kind of direction are we talking about, Trevor? I answered this way, that, and my brother here has talked about issues of incitement, for instance. I'll want to speak about responsibility of leadership. Just a few days ago, for instance, I had a political leader, for example, indicating that President William Ruto convened a meeting at State House and ordered police officers to kill Kikuyus. That is former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, to kill Kikuyus. Statements that are outrightly insightful. And that, to me, I would conclude that it makes him even a siren for genocide. Now, what will that make to young Kikuyu boys? In terms of maandamano like today, they'll come out and try to attack police officers because in their minds, they perceive that they have been sent to come and shoot them. Now, secondly, we want direction where police officers take seriously the authority given to them by Article 238 of the Constitution, national security. Remember that when it comes to national security, we need, or security agencies need to guard against internal and external aggression. Article 238, sub-article 1 provides for protecting property,
And life.
protecting life, observing human rights, all those. But then again, as demonstrators exercise their rights enshrined in Article 37 of the Constitution, we need to read the Constitution conjunctively. There is also Article 40 of the Constitution, right to property. Trevor, the right to property also constitutes the right to enjoy property and benefit from that property. When businesses are looted or torched, buildings are torched, when a landlord loses a building, their right to property is also infringed. And remember, for instance, in Ngunjiri Wambugu versus Inspector General of Police, 2019, Justice Makau held that as demonstrators exercise their rights in Article 37, they should appreciate that the rights of those not part of the demonstrations are not suspended. So that balance of appreciation is something that's very crucial.
Okay, and let me bring in Okili Weda. There's a proposal here by the ODM leader Raila Odinga to have an intergenerational national conclave. Will this help in any way? And what will the issues be? And who will be on the table? We're dealing with a team of Gen Zs who have said that, first of all, we are leaderless, tribeless. So who do you invite to the table? What are the issues? And haven't we had so much talk over the years?
Thank you. My brother, let us call a spade a spade. Let us be clear. Let's avoid linguistic circumlocutions and madogodanios, pretending and analyzing. Like today, the Saba today, what was it for? It has been there before. Last year, there was Saba the other year. What was it for? When we went for it, we wanted repeal of all the various laws and Section 2A. And all that culminated in Constitution 2010. So today, what was it? Suppose we met Ruto. Say, Bwana Ruto, give us. Today, Saba, give us. What was he supposed to give us? We have beaten the police to the corner. The Kenyan police today is scared. He is beaten like a Brokenga and is having a gun because we have beaten them to the corner. I've heard my brother here saying, oh, Raila has done what? But let us give Raila his dues. 2007, 2008, this country was burning. Corners, you would have gone the Somali way. He is the one who said, it is my victory which is stolen. It is enough, let's talk. The international community came and said, we told him, even you are getting a popular of leadership, they are not dividing the government. Don't joke. He said, forget it. Whatever I've gotten, let's go. And Kenya remained peaceful after that. The other day when there was the Gen Z protest, and it was infiltrated. And we could go either way. Remember when people are fighting, People have supporters. Even today, the Ruto supporters have not come out. The Raila supporters have not come out. When they meet in the field, it will be chaos. Sudan started just like that. They can't stop it. South Sudan. So that is why sometimes we have leaders who say, yes, they have stolen. Or I think they have stolen from me. I think it is bad. But for the sake of this country, let me stop there. So even now, when we tell police, when the people are arrested, court order says, when you are going to the demonstration, go with your number, leave your eyes open so that we charge you. Then police say, yes. Okay. So you see a policeman running, you see another one being beaten like Brokenge. You cannot maintain law and order when there is fear that if I do it, I'm damned.
Okay.
When we were rioting in those days, we used to riot, and the target was always the GSU and the police. You would throw stones at them, you also run. But now, we have people who go and slap the policeman with a gun. Until we also appreciate the work the Kenyan police and the GSU are playing.
Yeah.
I said in this media house another one, I said, we need the police to take leave for 4 days. Let them go home or go on a strike so that we know the role they play.
Okay.
I was young. I was in class 7, August 1st, 1981. The military said, police wawe camera here. In exactly 3 days, they came back and said, go back to work. It is too much. So let us appreciate the role the police are playing.
Yeah.
Let us appreciate the risk they are taking for us. Let us remember, these are the very people who, when you are involved in a road accident and your brain is scattered on the floor on the road and your legs are all over, they come and pick one by one and put in a body bag. But we treat them like our enemies.
So is the
So now,
yes,
we have reached where we have also to tell the young people, we understand what you are saying.
Yeah.
We need to talk. We need to follow things that correct certain wrongs.
Okay.
But let us also honor some of us who make us live and coexist.
Okay.
Dialogue alone does not create jobs. Jobs are created in an organized, pole-pole, structured economy. If you ban a supermarket, you have lost jobs. And there are leaders who think that they can have a country ungovernable so that there's regime change. They do not know that when you want a regime change in an illegal manner, other people's supporters will come out. Now, watu watatuangana kama Brokenge, and we may never have a country.
Right.
That is where I salute Raila. In 2008, some of us were saying, no, don't betray us. Tuangane paka mwisho. He's the one who came and said, you people. And we have Kenya now, we enjoy.
Okay.
So people like my former deputy president, I voted for him. Rigiji. I voted for Rigiji. I voted for Ruto. Immediately entered into the office, he started saying, watu yangu ya melima. So I said, mimi mutu ya lek, and I'm yours, sasa nimebaki na nani. Let him know that regime change illegally will hurt most people. More so the wealthy, the rich, the owners of supermarkets and big buildings and big media houses like this. You go first. Look at other countries, then you come and say, let us go pele-pele. Our young people have issues. We have to address these issues systematically, properly, and into details.
Okay. Franklin, will the INC be the solution, the intergenerational national conclave? I'm calling it that because we've had several other talks.
Yeah.
There's been NADCO, there's been bombers. Now this is a new one.
Yeah.
Is this the direction that will help the country recover from the current unrest?
Trevor, dialogue in and of itself is a good thing. The most potent democratic principle is actually dialogue, because you move processes through conversations. Politics should be conversational. It's about exchange of views. It's about exchange of... The challenge that we've had with the Raila conversations and much of the political elites in this country is not about an honest, structured, inclusive, people-centered dialogue. It is an elite settlement. And that is the problem. And that is why young people and the majority of Kenyans perceive this as hoodwinking them and not addressing the issues. However, for us to be able to resolve the outstanding issues, we will not be able to do them on the streets. Wakil Ambrose Weda was in Saba in 1990, but it took Kenyans a conversation, another 15 years, another 20 years actually, to arrive at the Constitution of Kenya 2010. So at the end of the day, it will have us to go back to the table, around the table, take seats and discuss an agenda and have a conversation about it. As long as Honorable Raila Odinga is perceived as pushing an elite settlement to these issues, then he will not be heard, he will not be listened to. The challenges that we are having around the police is one of those critical issues that we need to discuss. We need criminal accountability. We know very well that we have a constitution that provided for mechanisms. And my colleague Saba has just mentioned Article 238. There's also the establishment of IPOA. How the hell are we not allowing the functioning of those independent offices and constitutional commissions? We've watered them down. We cannot have criminal accountability. We do not have sufficient oversight. The major problem with the police service is not the police itself. The major problem with the police is not Kenyans. The major problem with the police service, we know, is the politicization of the police work. That you have a way that you want police to function when you are in power and only find it wrong when you are out of power. The same gentleman they're mentioning about, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, did not find any fault with police actions when he was outside, all right? In as much as he may make some comments today, then it is not believable in the eyes of Kenyans. The same Interior Minister, the Honorable Murkomen, had totally different views when he was on the receiving end in the Uhuru Kenyatta era. And now he's in charge. He can actually praise the police excesses. But we know very well that it is not the police that are reaching out and organizing the Mipini bearing young men and being forced to work with them. It is because of the political orders, not the orders as per the standing order. But in a country where the recruitment, the training, the deployment, the promotion and reward of the officers in a police service, and as much as we have the National Police Service, we know very well that still a lot of corruption is involved in the enlistment of young men and women in the service. We know very well that the promotion of these officers, again, goes along ethnic lines and other things that are not largely based on merit. And that is why we are having a challenge of Kenyans with the police officers. A lot of Kenyans really appreciate police officers. Okay. And unless we find ways of activating oversight, as the new constitution demands, unless we find ways of making sure that we have criminal accountability and separate wheat from chaff, we will not be able to safeguard our police men and women who do a good job on a daily basis to safeguard this country.
Okay. Eric, will this INC help, and who do you bring to the table at a time when those who are supposed to be the ones with the unrest say they don't have any leaders?
But Trevor, allow me to just delve a little on the issue of police before I come to that. I have said here before, I will repeat, that policemen are still our brothers and sisters. We do not want to see life lost, not even the life of a policeman, I dare emphasize. Even today, we have clips of very moderate, very calm and cool and collected police officers who, even at the point of extreme provocation, did not opt to shoot to kill. And you see, the other day, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior even went and told police, use these guns, I will defend you everywhere. A statement I would call...
No, he didn't say that.
Wakili, you spoke, I listened in silence. You can afford silence.
No, when lies
you can afford silence. So what I'm saying, Trevor, immediately after the trouble of 2007-2008, came the National Task Force on Police Reforms that was chaired by a Judge Philip Ransley. They made 19 recommendations that were given to government by end of 2009, I think November 2009. One of those things was capacity building for police, retraining for police. There was the issue of equipment and infrastructure, their housing. I have said here before that we need to make police an equal opportunity employer. with very, very definite career progression paths. When you do that, then police becomes an area of employment one can come out of school and say, I want to go here. But when you say the entry point must be D+ and that C- is overqualified, you water it down. And you see the transition from the Kenya Police Force to Kenya Police Service was on paper. The National Police Service Act of 2011, the National Police Service Commission Act of 2011, the Independent Police Oversight Authority Act of 2011, they are on paper. Ideally, the Inspector General of Police takes no instructions anywhere written.
Yeah.
But the real situation is he takes instructions. So I think we have to be clear and honest with each other. I don't want to do wholesale condemnation that police are bad, but I think when we get them to a point of thanking them for a job well done, when lives have been lost and the response was extreme, I think that's wrong. Will this proposal by the Honorable Raila Odinga be useful? I say yes and no. Yes, that dialogue all the time is the way to go so that you don't ban a country. We don't have another country. We don't have Uganda. This is ours, and we don't want to ban this country. But what amount of trust does the Honorable Raila Odinga enjoy today from the young people? What amount of confidence does the broad-based government now enjoy from the populace? When you answer that for me, you will find that although the idea is good, it's almost coming like there's a dagger hidden somewhere. The Honorable Raila Odinga speaks from Serena and says, in his mind, we need conclave. But you go to X and you find one of his diehard supporter MPs is saying, did police run out of ammos? And you can't say that and you're still a parent who has children in your house. Because you do not want to incite anarchy from one side. We want a situation where our children can intermarry, can go to all communities. Yeah. I fear to imagine a country where we want to say there's a problem with community X. Let's just say when there is a criminal activity, we deal with a criminal. Okay. We do not balkanize a community for the sake of achieving long-term or short-term political ambition. Okay. So if you ask me, Trevor, I would say that the last time you hosted me here, I said the symbol of national unity in the country is His Excellency the President. He was sworn into office, properly elected. He's in office until another general election comes. Yeah. The last time when he held an X-space engagement directly with the youth, tension eased off. I am looking at him just taking a phone and saying, I would like to engage with these people directly, these young people. The trouble is the infiltration. They've been infiltrated by goons who are being paid stipend by a thinking of the political elite.
Okay. Yeah. Javas, will this INC help?
It is possible that it may help because democracy by its nature calls for conversation, calls for engagement that is perpetual and sustained. And you see, Honorable Raila Odinga has just made a proposal. And he's got a right to his opinion, and we've got many other leaders in this country, whether allied to government or opposition, who can say, hey, we've had Raila Odinga's proposal, our proposal is this, then we see how as a country we come together in a conversation that takes this country forward. Trevor, Kenya is not a fragile state, but we have got fragile politics. We must not allow fragile politics to push us on the edge or on the cliff to make us part of those states that are weakened inside and so fragile that stability is something that they find very remote. My brother, Frank Mukwanja here, he's the executive director of Center for Multi-Party Democracy. I am his potential gravedigger. Mukwanja has got an entity that is the umbrella of various political organizations. Today we ask ourselves, in a functional democracy such as ours, because it's Saba, which was fought for by people like Council Maisinia Weda, to make sure that we move away from the unitary state that we were back then. Some of the protesters today, do they belong to political parties? Some are Gen Zs, they have said they are partyless. Some are members of political parties. We would like to see, for instance, after Raila Odinga has proposed, Honorable Raila Odinga has proposed that we need to have such conclave. We are desirous of a proposal also from CMD, which brings together all political parties, that this is our proposal to move Kenya forward from this kind of mayhem situation that we are in. Secondly, I think also to save ourselves, we need to move away and shun the politics of dog whistling. What is, my brother here has talked about, the infiltration by political elites. Now, for there to be dog whistling and its effectiveness, we know that there must be a dog or dogs. There must be whistles. There must be dog owners. All these fragments must be identified and dealt with. Secondly, when it comes to matters governance and national security, the greatest honors and responsibility rests on the shoulders of the president. Remember that he's head of state and government and a symbol of national unity. At Kasarani, on 13th of September 2022, Honorable William Ruto took the Constitution and sought to defend and protect. That protection includes components of national security, good governance, protection of property, human rights, etc. And that is why when my brother here talks about the issue of responsibility, and Honorable Weda also mentioned, and accountability. Accountability is like a pendulum. It swings both ways. Today, the opposition, of course, sadly, it is a coalition of former deputies being led by it. We need to have responsibility from the opposition in how they make their remarks. Today, my brother has also mentioned about some of these so-called goons maybe being affiliated to persons maybe who are in authority, whether in opposition, etc. We have also seen a member of parliament allied to the opposition leaders being apprehended. We need responsibility on both sides.
Okay.
Now, the CS for Interior and the entire Ministry of Interior and National Administration has got the responsibility to preside over security arrangements, protection of property, protection of lives, human rights in this country, within the territory of Kenya. Trevor, I think Kenyans don't have a problem with the police en masse for this reason. If somebody today has an accident, they'll report to a police station for the matter to be handled. Today, if there is a burglary case, it's the police who will handle it. At that time, we never see citizens saying that they have a problem with the police. But how come, and when you look through the lenses of history, that whenever we have got political demonstrations, they turn violent? We've seen LSK, we've seen doctors having demonstrations. They are never violent. How come political demonstrations turn to be violent? And this is the purity of thinking and purifying of our democracy that we need to deal with. Honorable Weda also talked about Saba back then, and today, if we try to create a nexus between Saba as it was and its objectives and the Gen Z, what are these objectives? If the issue was commemoration of the fight for multipartyism, look at leaders, celebrated leaders like Honorable James Orengo, we had Martin Shikuku, we've had very many other leaders. They had leaders, they had goals, they had a purpose. The Gen Z have got also a purpose, pressing for accountability. But if the issue, Trevor, with all sincerity and honesty, is to try and overthrow government contrary to provisions of Article 2, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution, then that is a pilgrimage to nowhere. We need to be sure that we want good governance, but by pursuing good governance, we must not subvert the ideals and objectives of the same good governance. As I finish, I would say this. We know that the right to protest is not donated by the state. But the right to protest must be understood as the right to do good, not to do wrong, because it is a conditional right. When we come out to protest and then we block roads, we are stopping flow of traffic. When there is the torching of buildings, I mean, really, we've seen countries out there engaging in demonstrations. We don't see this kind of acts. So I think the direction we need to move to is a direction of objectivity, order, and sincerity that we need to preserve our country, not destroy it.
Wakili Weda, there's also another conversation about police reforms. Again, another conversation that has been had before.
Yes.
Should we have another conversation around police service reforms? Or simply just implement what has been put there? Kriegler report has been there. There's been the recently Maraga conversation, Waki report, a lot of it.
I think we have enough reports.
Yeah.
I think we also know the direction where we want to go. What is missing?
Money.
Money.
We
have good things, Trevor. You have even good plans in your house. The problem? For instance, we are talking about traffic policemen picking money. We are simply saying give them cameras. When you do the math, the budget, billions, we don't have it. The young people are protesting. Some of them genuinely, they have nothing. Parliament should sit there and say, let's have some stipend for young people as they wait for jobs and openings. Social welfare. That's what I think as well. If I was president, that's one of the things I would think about. Social welfare for certain vulnerable people who are promising. There are also wale walikataa shule, walikimbia, walienda, waliambiwa wakakataa. But there are others who, just because the economy is not strong enough, they are not able to get openings, but they are fully qualified. As they wait, as they try to beat their lives, to panel it, there should be some social welfare. What our problem is? This. Then the reports can be implemented, and it also requires sincerity. For instance, the minister, I interrupted my brother here, is my friend, a great man from Nyakach. The minister said something, and then there was spinning all over. Media houses spinning. So when I was called, I said, play it so that I hear. I don't want to condemn the minister or defend him on saying he has given a shoot-to-kill order. Now, when it was played, he said, if somebody is approaching, breaking into the police station to take guns, you can't allow it. You have to stop them. To take breaking into a police station. What we are facing today, we never faced from Saba 1990 up to just the other day, burning police stations, breaking into police stations, taking guns, cleaning supermarkets, burning supermarkets. Even if we are protesting, somebody is simply saying, let's make Kenya and Uganda kama mbaya ni mbaya, watu wasikie. Let the Kikuyu community feel we are being finished. Now we shall see through that. It is good we need to have police reform. Some of them are mistakes we have caused as a country. What do I mean? Police force is the place where I have 3 sons, one from Harvard, another one from Nairobi University, another one from the University of Kombewa in the village. He refused to go even to class 10. Anasumbua hapa. Now when a chance comes, and I'm told, Mr. Weda, we can employ one of your sons. I can't take the Harvard one. The one who is disturbing everybody is the one we push there. So there are also many crooks that we have absorbed as police officers. Now, we need to repent there. But otherwise, there needs to be reform. Our children also. We cannot create jobs through violence. Violence will not create jobs. Even if we fight, there must come a point when we say, we are now fought, we now say, we need to sit down. The other day, Israelis and the Americans bombed Iran over nuclear weapons. But they are saying, now we have bombed them. We need to talk and write down. So young people, we appreciate. I have children. If they just rebel and say, we want, I'll tell them, burn the house, burn the cars. I go back to Kombewa. Me, I'm a pastor. I'll eat meat in the funerals as I preach, and I'm fine. So there are things that needs to be discussed, there are things that needs to be done, but not violence that gives room to goons. We are seeing people now organizing themselves, waiting. When are we having the next demonstrations?
Yeah.
Do we have nane, tisa? Because there was a time we had them. We did Saba, nane, tisa, kumi. You get it? But now there are people who are saying that is a market day. We are going to do shopping. And they mark. And then we warn the police. We scare the police. They are scared, Steve. The police today we are dealing with are so scared that you'll go and slap one with a gun and he will kneel down for you. Something I'm telling you as a pastor, you try me if I have a gun and you slap me in front of my wife. You are dead fast. The rest we'll do in court.
Okay.
So
Yeah, let me bring in Franklin on this. Do we need further police reforms or just implementation of what has been agreed before?
I agree we just have a rotten culture, and Wakili Weda just nailed it. Largely, if you look at our and with a lot of respect to professional police officers and security, very good security men and women, you will see that a lot of the black sheep in our families are the ones who we will cheekily say, Trevor should be a police officer. And we have this wrong attitude. And I remember the conversation when former police commissioner, I think he came from the military, Ali, and he suggested and started actually recruiting some graduates into the police force. And then another police commissioner came in, and I think the conversation was, these guys don't last on the job. They come in as graduates, and certainly they want to master, and they go to do other things, want to become advocates like my senior here, Weda. But they want those guys who know this is between a rock and a hard place, and this is where I can find comfort and serve. But again, even with these people we are branding as not so good and all that, we know so well that parents have committed heinous crimes of bribing to have their sons and daughters get into the police. So we start on a wrong footing. Secondly, is that possibly the reforms that we need to do are in the training and equipping, all right, and making sure that the police welfare is well taken care of. Finally, and I will emphasize this, there is nothing so wrong with our police officers that is not with any other profession that we have. The problem that we have is that the political elites have an interest, and therefore utilizing police in the manner that they would want to achieve their selfish interests. And that tells you why you can see all these different opinions. Today is Raila Odinga speaking that he failed to arrive, you know, at is Raila Odinga a respecter of police roadblocks? From which day? Right? And we have heard him say these things. So we can see that when basically politicians exercising good table manners when their mouth is full so that they do not speak things candidly. The problem that we have is a political problem. It's a political problem that is immoralizing and demoralizing our police service. Reforms are required all over, but is there any need to continue talking about reforms when we've not implemented what we haven't, what we have found out? I think that is a clear issue that we need to have. Okay. And Jabas, I want just to put it this, that it's not entirely correct that all political demonstrations have turned violent. We know very well that at the beginning of the Gen Z protests in May, June last year, they were very, very peaceful for about 2 weeks. Again, it is the political class that came up with the Gunzi version of the Gen Z that infiltrated the Gen Z to make it violent. Okay. All right? So there is a possibility that even the Kenyans that who are out there coming out picketing, Kenyans that are actually coming out, they're just speaking candidly to issues, mean well, and they actually want to cooperate with the police officers. But there is a selfish political agenda that will not allow it. Just a final one. He challenged me, what is the position of CMD? And I was very clear, and I've been very clear. Over the last 7 years, since 2019, we have, and not just 2009, since our establishment in 2004 as an organization, we have been in the pursuit of multi-party dialogue. Today, we sustain an annual dialogue conversation called the People Dialogue Festival. This week, tomorrow morning, I'll be leaving for Meru. Meru is one of the hard-hit, areas that even the county commissioner is involved. We are going to stage 2 days of continuous conversation with the political class, with the civic actors, the business community, just to make sure that we are learning that art of talking to each other, and that politics at the end of the day, that governance at the end of the day, that if you want to resolve anything, even if you want a wife driver, it will still take a dialogue. a conversation between two families to agree to exchange someone's daughter with some goats.
Okay. Eric, you've been part of this police reforms dialogue for quite some time now. What do we keep getting wrong, and do we need another dialogue for police reforms?
Trevor, I do not come to your shows to joke when we are talking about national security issues. This is a matter of life and death. I don't think I have sacrificed time to come here and make jokes of what we are going through. Today we have lost 10 or 19, hurt others, hurt police, hurt destroyed shops, and so on. I live in this country. I am a security actor of many years, 32 now. I will look government in the eye like this, and I know they are watching me. The symbol of national unity, the commander-in-chief, the president, can bring this to a stop. And that is why I say the pressers of Serena don't make much. The president needs to engage. And I want to tell you, Trevor, if there was no infiltration, there would be no trouble. From where I sit today, I take the very strong position that people who are hired by actors or sympathizers of one side of the political divide, and I watch and hold no brief for any side, but those who are paid are the ones who are causing mayhem. These young people, ordinarily, if they would have been left on their own, there would have been no trouble. You've asked me about police reforms. The Ransley report is somewhere enjoying dust. It is a 19-point agenda. Very nice. It has a path for career progression, salary increments, salary reviews. We are doing affordable housing units across the country. In some areas, people are not interested in them. But our police officers, in their units, some still live in uni-huts. I have said here before, some of the things we do not look at is the psychosocial stability of the police. We talk of we transitioned from a police force to a police service. But the police curriculum is still that one of the force, where police does not understand it. Have we even taken our policemen to specialized trainings? That's why I'm saying we don't need to spend any more money. Let's just go there. This is our government. We don't have another one until 2027. We don't have another one. This is ours. We wish it well. But when we say that there was a lapse here, hiring these people, I maintain, is wrong. If government stopped this thing and the young people said they want to run, Trevor, I'll ask you a very, very simple question, and even you live in Kenya. On 25th of June, the many young people that we saw on Kiambu Road walking into town, they were a mammoth, 10 times what we saw today. But there was minimal destruction of property. Today, Kiambu was generally loose. Let's lose. It had what you would call a handful of protesters. But the damage was a mayhem of destruction. You don't have to have gone to school to just study patterns of sectarian incitement to trouble and go to X. And I want to say here, the weakest link today in the instability of this country is the National Assembly, is Parliament. Look at what the President's aide was doing in Lamu today with a member of Parliament of the other gender. Huh? Going vulgar. We are going through very serious issues. I don't want a country where the Speaker of the National Assembly runs all over, like a pastor of a presidential lullabies. I want a Speaker of the National Assembly who sits in the National Assembly, and when he sits to when he retreats to write rulings, people can switch off their radios and listen.
Okay.
The Speaker of the National Assembly today, I can dare predict that up to 60 or 70% of the current crop of political leaders will hardly make it back. Okay. That's where the weakest link is.
All right. Javas, police reforms, do we still need more talks on this?
Well, police reforms, yes. You see, Trevor, I'm morbidly conscious of the state of governance and politics in the country today, and the kind of interlinks that are necessary to make even the wheels of proper police services to be effective. Now, first, we must agree that young people or middle-aged people don't have to burn this country so that some politicians can warm their bodies. We need this country safe and intact. Secondly, it is important for us to ask ourselves that with regard to matters police reforms and how police interact with the people, what more can be done? We've had lots of task forces, it's been said here. The most recent one being the Justice Maraga task force, and a raft of recommendations that were made. And it's just a question of going to those shelves and seeing how we implement this. And it has to be progressive. It cannot be a question of plug and play, and everything is like instant coffee happening at once. Of course, there are balance of distribution of resources. Secondly, there are some police officers who are not giving the police service a good name. We've got some trigger-happy police officers, and once some have been found as such, and IPOA does its work and found culpable, they need to face the full force of the law. Secondly, it is possible that we need to have a mechanism where mental health services, counseling services are also availed and afforded to police officers or the security sector, because some could be undergoing various challenges, and it's important that also that front is taken care of. The other thing is that when it comes to demonstrations, we have got various methods of demonstrations. There's picketing, yes, there is the protesting.
Yeah.
I've just been asking myself, sitting here tonight, Trevor, if the protesters or the organizers were to call for a hunger strike as a mode of protest, how many Kenyans will show up for their hunger strike? It is a form of protest. Because what I've witnessed all over the world, in a hunger strike, you'll not see even the looting, and people will not even have the energy to loot. So is it possible that other than the running around, the battles, the toing and froing, is it possible then that a hunger strike could be called as an alternative, as a method of demonstration? Okay. So we need to come alive to alternative thinking, whether in matters governance, matters exercising or pushing for our rights, and with regard to social justice and its pursuit, which actually is necessary and a right that cannot be denied by anyone. We must see and ask ourselves, should the pursuit of social justice lead to economic injustices? Because when shops are looted, for instance, it's an economic injustice. So we need to see how we balance all these things.
All right. I have some quick feedback here to go through. Then I'll give each and every one of you just 1 minute for closing remarks, and we'll answer the question, where do we go from here? In just 1 minute. Let's bring up the feedback and see what you're saying. At Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Monday Report. Let's read that through and see what your sentiments are. And we see here, I think this is the chair for the Digital Content Creators Association of Kenya, that is Bob Ndolo, says this is not the time to pit one community against another or the police against demonstrators. What we need now is a national conversation, exactly, and they say that exactly what is it, what we're advocating for. I couldn't agree more with Wakili Ambrose Weda. Okay, let's bring in more conversation and see what you're saying. Muiru Paul says the issues affecting Kenya's wastage, corruption, impunity, abductions, unemployment, etc. do not require dialogue. We only need government decisive action. Okay? Sir Nixon says the goal of protests is not more protests. The goal of protest is change. The government must understand this and for sure work hard around making the majority's desired change, however painful the change might be. Kibet Rodriguez says to end protests in Kenya, the government must address the core grievances that fuel them, primarily the high cost of living, unemployment, and increased taxation by implementing policies that improve economic stability. Crispin Adams says there is enough money to implement the police reforms. It's just a missed priority. Education is overfunded, but hundreds of billions are looted at Jogo House and at the TSC headquarters. We have more than we need as a nation. Johnny says these days distinguishing the origins and intentions of various factions has become increasingly challenging. Pro-democracy demonstrations, once regarded as safe spaces for expression, have now become perilous in Kenya. Okelo Mwalimu says in order to avert ongoing unrest, the following steps are key. 1, Gen Zs must concretize their concerns into achievable targets. Number 2, they must appoint leaders who will spearhead their movement. Number 3, the police should have financial autonomy to be fully independent. He continues to say, number 4, the police shouldn't see all demonstrating youth as potential criminals, but rather as patriotic Kenyans. Their sole mandate should be to protect lives and livelihoods. They should apprehend criminals and present them to court. And number 5, the government should prioritize service delivery. Kate says we should be careful as a country not to fall into the abyss of misery. Sobriety must be restored through meaningful dialogue. Okay? Is that the last one? All right. Where do we go from here? In what?
Thank you. I think, Trevor, we draw from where we came from.
Yeah.
By 1990, the repressive nature of Moi regime had reached its peak. And leaders, the young people, came and said, this is where we are going to go. And if a protest was called that we want repeal of Section 2, it was day, morning, evening, night, whatever.
Yeah.
Until it was repealed and we went to Constitution 2010. Now we are talking about economic reforms so that we have enough.
Okay.
What Trump would call, I'll make you rich. This is what we need. The young people have done one mistake. They have shielded us from being taxed to fund their future.
Okay.
It is the middle class who should be paying taxes now to fund their future, who have hired them to make noise. So government is scared. Remember in 1961, 62, 63, the Wazungus were here, and it needed people to pay so that they are driven out. People like Dida and Kimathi paid with their lives. They are dead to date, and we are free. But now us, we are saying taxation. We borrowed people's money. It has to be paid through taxes. This year, government feared taxing us, the middle class, the workers, like my brother who came here. So it is only paying salaries, debts, and no money for investment. Eventually, the future is the same young people will have to be taxed. There are things that you have to say. When we were young, we used to tell the older people, do your part. When we reach, we will do ours. But let us stop destroying what has been built.
Okay.
It will destroy the country.
Mkwanja, closing remarks, 1 minute.
Yeah, I think in addition to criminal accountability and activating oversight for making sure that we are living up to the rule of law and good governance, and making sure that human rights and fundamental freedoms and rights are respected, there is an urgent need to rescue young people from the economic crisis that we have. And that requires a government that has the character, has the competence, and has the capability. Unfortunately, even including the experts that joined, the country is not adequately convinced that the leadership is headed in the right direction. Okay. Secondly, and finally, is that we have had this misnomer which must be corrected, that every time there are some demonstrations that they get violent and some properties are destroyed here and there, we say we are losing too much. I dare say this country loses so much in peace when it is being looted, when all of us are asleep, hectares of land are grabbed, and all this environment is destroyed. We have a hotel that was just being constructed in Ngong Forest, allegedly by a contractor who's also developing Talanta Stadium. That is the kind of looting and destruction of environment that is causing Nairobi to flood and destroy more lives than this, And finally, it is not the young people that are destroying this country. It is the political class that are misbehaving and wasting their lives. We must call them to order to be able to fix this country.
All right, Eric, 1 minute, closing remarks.
Thank you for having me, Trevor. I think we forgot to look at the net economic loss the country goes through every time we have these disruptions. I come from the business perspective where a lot of the money we do business with is borrowed from the banks. I wonder whether anyone is going to talk to the banks to either waive or give us some grace of not paying the loans. So I worry for the business people who are borrowing. As I end, the moment the government becomes genuinely serious and makes it difficult for its sympathizer politicians to hire infiltrators into these demonstrations, it now must change tact and approach in dealing with the grievances the young people are raising. These young people are jobless. They will lose nothing with the protests. And so they can afford to protest once a week or twice a week. Okay. They are not the sufferers. And so the thought process and the mindset of 1990, the one advocated here ably by Weda, can't work today. Okay. Government must change strategy. Okay. Not the Weda thinking, not the 35 years thinking.
Okay. Javas?
Trevor, of all patriots watching us tonight, to them I say that their love for this country is not greater than mine. We all love this country, and we should all do everything to protect it. It is important that we appreciate that every little thing we do goes a long way either to make this country better or otherwise. Today, on Saba Saba, one of the things that we must appreciate as a matter of loss is life, sustained injuries. In Kitengela today, it's reported of a health facility that was invaded, and even the lives of medical and health workers put to risk. Schools today, majority of schools did not open up today. Children are losing time, losing opportunities. Now, business people did not open up, some for fear of their rights and their businesses being looted, and some actually having their businesses looted. I think we need to come to a point where we also say that let us come together. And CMD does a very great job in creating dialogue and opportunities for dialogue. I've engaged with them numerously. It is important for young people, for middle-aged people, for leaders to see how we take care of this country by even how we sieve our words. Okay. I call upon leaders, whether in the opposition, whether in government, to sieve their words. And I also call upon religious leaders. Yeah. Some of them who sit quietly when insightful statements are made in their presence, and they don't castigate that. They are also letting this country down. Okay. We are all stakeholders. All right. Let us hold hands and take this country forward by our actions, not omissions.
All right. And finally, Francis Wanderi, a former IBC commissioner, says, Trevor, the problem we have in this country is not about dialogue. It's about governance and the rule of law. Fix governance and the rule of law, grow the economy, and the country will be back on track if leaders stop looting our economy. Gentlemen, thank you so much for making time. I'm Bruce Wade, advocate of the High Court, Franklin Kwanja, executive director, CMD, Eric Okeyo, former vice chairperson, Security Regulatory Authority, and Javas Bigambo, political strategist, for having that conversation with us. And thank you for all the feedback that you sent through. That's where I leave it for now. On behalf of everyone who made this possible, we say good night and God bless. My name is Trevor Ombija.